Well, welcome to PD on the Go, the podcast that delivers bite-sized learning on communication, collaboration, and facilitation for busy teacher leaders. Tune in while you're in the car, on your lunch break, or making copies, and get ready to level up your leadership skills. My name is Mary Beth Anderson, and I'm joined today by my colleagues from the Office of Professional Learning in Fairfax County Public Schools. We're really excited today because we have our very first guests, some educational specialists from the Great Beginning teams in our same office.
Hi, I'm Katie Eustace.
I'm Jenna Reeder.
And I'm Meg Michelli.
And so today on our episode, we're talking about what it means to find your marigold and to be a marigold. So one of the things that you all tell new teachers in FCPS comes from the cult of pedagogy, and it's to find your marigold, but to beware of walnut trees. So Katie, can you tell me a little bit more about what exactly this means?
I would love to. So in education, we love a good analogy. And so in her article from 2013, she talks about how gardeners like to plant marigolds in their gardens next to the other plants because things grow really well around them. I don't know what they do to the soil, but they do great things to the soil and things flourish. On the other hand, gardeners avoid planting things near walnut trees because when walnut trees are growing, they basically leach out all the nutrients from the soil. It's not good for plants, and they're not going to thrive there. So when we're thinking about new teachers, it's really this call to action for them to think about the people that you're surrounding yourself with and paying attention to the energy that you're feeling around them. Is this person helping me feel like, yes, this is a really hard job, but I can do it, or am I feeling really drained after this conversation? And she really encourages young teachers who are young in their profession to, find those people who help them feel like they can do this hard job.
Yeah, so it's like helping those new teachers find their people, right?
Yes,
like who
exactly.
are going to be their go-to people.
Mm-hmm.
So Jenna, how does a veteran teacher or teachers in the building, what should they do in order to be a marigold?
One really important thing that a teacher can do to be a marigold for a new teacher is to really think about modeling a mindset of realistic optimism. In education, we really tend toward what we'll call toxic positivity, where it's that, whole good vibes only, everything will be fine, don't even worry about it. And it's really avoiding the very real challenges, particularly of this profession. And if you approach something with a lens or a mindset of toxic positivity, what you're really doing is devaluing or, smoothing over the emotions that are present instead of acknowledging and validating them, which is really, really important, particularly for a first-year teacher who's probably got a lot of huge emotions that they're feeling. They have wonderful days and they have terrible days, and there's not a lot of in between. And so, again, it's really important to model that mindset of what I like to call realistic optimism, and that is acknowledging the challenge of the profession. This is really hard, or yes, that was difficult, or we're going to have to do a lot of work to get to a place where we feel good about things, but we're going to get there, and I'm here to support you in getting there. You have somebody on your team who is going to be there with you on this journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's more like it's not just the mentor's job to do that, right?
Yes.
Because we know that each new teacher that comes to Fairfax County gets a mentor. Whether they're in their first year of teaching, they'll have a mentor, or if they're transferring from a new school district, right? So they have that one go-to person, but we're really talking about spreading it across the school and to be those marigolds. So why is that important, Meg?
It's a great question. I know what we're talking about right now, we're talking about teachers, and we're talking about teachers in our buildings, brand new teachers, veteran teachers, and yet all of it really comes back to kids. And what does this have, or what impact does it have on students? And so I always think back to Hattie and the research that he did around the most impactful factors for student achievement. And the number one factor that he found for positive student achievement was collective teacher efficacy. So honestly, the belief that teachers could and be successful, and then that belief then transfers to their students. So what Jenna was just talking about with a little bit of that toxic positivity, if we're surrounding new teachers with that toxic positivity, if they're questioning their own emotions, they're going to bring that into the classroom and potentially not bring their best self forward and potentially negatively impact the students in their classroom. So a lot of the why really comes behind the idea that the number one thing that can influence a kid in their entire lives is that person that's standing in front of them. So how do you, as you just said, Mary Beth, kind of create that team for them, that group, kind of that family, that home where there's lots of people who have that same belief in them so that they can then transfer that belief to their kids in their classrooms.
Yeah, so it's so that they have the go-to people that when they have that really hard day, they can say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or I need support with this, and then that in turn helps them to be a better teacher for kids. When I think about like giving our listeners specific tips of ways they can be a marigold, it sounds like shying away from saying good vibes only, or you'll get it, no worries, really like helping them to listen and see what they're feeling and showing them that you're a partner with them. What other like tangible things could people do?
One of the things that we talk about in our mentoring course is types of conversations you might have with a mentee, or that you as a mentor, that you as a colleague might have with a new teacher. And we talk about providing an emotional safe space where you give them a space to let their feelings out, you acknowledge and validate the feelings, but then you also help them move in a productive direction. Because sometimes, when we're kind of mired in the negative, it's really hard to figure out, well, what do I actually do with this? And so it's, again, acknowledging and validating, but not letting them spiral, not letting the new teacher get kind of caught in the complaining piece. It's finding the moment where they're ready now to think about, okay, well, what can we do about this? How can I help you with this? What support do you need from me? Or do we seek out from others to help you figure this out?
So really being solution oriented,
Yes.
and not just like staying, not being a walnut tree,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Because like thinking about the analogy is just, you don't want to be a person that doesn't allow that growth to happen
Yes.
around you, or get in the way, or stay in the negative.
Yeah.
You really want to help them to like flourish.
And I think too, like, we're all human beings. We're gonna have like days where we're feeling really marigoldy and days where we're feeling really walnutty. And so I think it's recognizing that in ourselves when we're supporting new teachers, and recognizing when we might not have the capacity to be that marigold, and kind of like keeping our mouths shut in that moment of, I don't have something really productive to offer in this moment, and helping in what ways you can, but then maybe stepping away, taking care of yourself, and coming back to that new teacher when you're in a more marigold headspace.
I think Katie touches on a really important point that we talk about building up that new teacher, and also mentors have to build those safe spaces for themselves as well. So in order to be that marigold, in order to be positive, sometimes it does involve drawing those boundaries, taking a step away, taking a moment for yourself, so that you can show up in that humane way. And to build on what Jenna was saying, I love with that piece about the conversations, we talk all the time about how when we're mentoring or when we're supporting a new teacher, wanting to coach them, wanting to bring them into new spaces and new ideas and helping them solve their own problems. And I think Jenna touched on such an important point with those different types of conversations, because if somebody's dog passes away, you're not going to come in and say, like, well, what might we do about those things, right? You need to be there for them in that moment. What hunches do you have around how you might feel better? Sometimes you just need to let it out, and it's such an important point that you made.
Yeah, and really being authentic.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for being here today. I think we've given our listeners some ways that they can create that safe space and the culture to, grow our new teachers. And our end goal is to keep them, right? And we know the best places we've worked, and we want to create those for the new teachers coming to Fairfax. So thank you so much for joining us today on PD on the Go. We also offer resources for our episodes, and you can check those out on our PLC site, or also on our Instagram at FCPS_PD. Join us next week.